Okay, theme song in 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. I don't know if I'm probably going to keep it in because, well, who knows? Who knows if it came through? But this is episode 212, I think. You know, Jesus. Yeah, it's 212. And I'm sitting here. I'm sending a text message so I can just have that in my mind. And responding to a text message. And so I have that in my mind. And I'm about to record. The show's already recording. I've been recording for a minute. And then I hear a woman's voice say something like as if she was directly next to me. I quickly realized the microphone picked it up from my apartment wall. That's the front door right there behind me. And obviously this is the hallway. And it was like she was right next to me. It was like she leaned over this is how you know I need some human contact. She was leaning over my side and went, and then my initial thought, I'm not kidding, was Nova came out here and learned to talk. She was, I'm not joking. Like she said, like she did something. She said something, and no, it just turned out to be a human woman. Oh gosh. Okay, welcome to 211 Constitutionals Podcast, premier podcasts. If you didn't know, for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. 2 weeks in a row, we're back. Not usually. Well, it means the summertime. I've been thinking about this for no benefit at all, but. Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon are on break, and Corden's on vacation for the rest of the summer. Kimmel's gone for the rest of the summer, and Colbert, I guess, I don't know. These are whatever. And Sam B is off right now, and who else? Bill Maher's coming back. Also, I forgot about Bill Maher in that late night report card. I don't really watch Bill Maher, so whatever. There's him. There's him. And who am I forgetting? Oh, John Oliver. He's back. You know, he's only doing weekly shows, and Desus and Mero are back as well after being gone for 2.5 months at the top of the summer, but for, at the end of spring. And it's hard to, I understand why they're gone. Well, especially the NBC shows, is because they A, need vacation, but B, the Olympics, and then for everybody else, C, there's just really no news. So it's interesting to have the late night shows be gone. Desus and Mero really don't need news. They just comment on stuff that happens on the internet. And I've been watching a lot of their old clips lately, and it just showed they're just really good, really funny guys. I'm not. Truth be told, when I was watching them when I first started out on Vice, I never watched them on Complex or anything. But when they started out on Vice, I always thought, well, if they want to be, Desus Nice always says #1 show in late night. I go, well, you can't really consider it late night. It's first things first. It's on Vice, Viceland, but. For them, I always thought they did have the guests. They had great guests and everything. But I always thought for them to be better at late night, they'd have to do some type of comedy. But they're just funny guys. They're just the comedy snob in me, which I'm no longer a comedy snob because it's all stupid and subjective. But speaking of, I got a story for you lately. But I always ignorantly, when I first watched them, I always thought, yeah, these guys are great and funny, and they remind me of my friends, but they need to go to, they need to take some improv classes and do this and that. No, they're just naturally funny guys. They're New York funny. They're just conversationally funny, and they're good at what they do. Now, I just hinted at it. I don't want to get too into the logistics of it, but I did this little competition, this little thing on the Blacklist, which is a website where screenwriters can post their scripts and have them be evaluated for payment. But I got like a little tiny scholarship so I could get a free evaluation because I dare not pay $70, which is an entire week's worth of groceries. I'm not doing that for somebody to read my script and tell me they didn't like it. So I did this little thing and I got a free evaluation and I got it back. First of all, it was late. Second, I got it back and they gave it a 4 out of 10. This person. They gave the overall 4 out of 10. They gave the plot a 3, which I think it's a great plot. They gave the premise a 6, which I'm fine with. Character, dialogue, and setting, just a very, very low scores. And the thing is, I think they might not have read all of the curse words in it. It's a lot of cursing. It's an R-rated movie, and they called it a family comedy, which it is not. And they rewrote the log line. I'm not saying I disagree with everything, but I just want to get at the things that, because there's a lot of stuff I agree with. Like they say it's too long, and it is extremely long. It's way too long for a comedy. But a lot of it's like montages. Like there's 3 montages in there. But the thing is, they rewrote the log line, and it's basically the last third of the movie, the log line. I don't think, because and I like a good story. So my story starts as soon as possible. You know the premise, you know the thesis statement of everything, and they rewrote the log line, and it's something. The log line is something that happens, I would say, halfway, maybe like 2/3 into the movie. And then they're talking about, the theme is family. And like, I don't know if it's really family. It's just, it's like a bunch of jokes. I mean, it, more or less it is about family, but, and it's not heartfelt. The comedy is definitely heartfelt. I don't think it's very heartfelt. It's just a bunch of R-rated jokes strung together with some story. Say it's more about the father than it is about the relationship between him and his wife. No, that's very wrong. The friendship between the main character and his coworker also shows another side of his character. That is completely incorrect because his friend is barely in the script. He's in it for like just bouncing ideas off of. So anyway. It's nice to have gotten this evaluation and everything, and obviously this person doesn't have to be right, and I can disagree, and other people can disagree as well. I can give this to somebody else, and they can say, "Oh, it's better than that." But it's so interesting to see someone else's take on it, and that's my first experience with Blacklist. Except for one time, a guy, like 3 years ago, maybe, reached out to me. He was a producer of a bunch of, A-list movies or movies that come out in theaters and on streaming services, and they star people, B-list movies or B movies, excuse me, are movies that like Blackula and The Room, just a bunch of cobbled together, not too good, not cult films and stuff. I would say he was like a D-list producer, producing D movies that I'm surprised people would have even seen. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I read your thing and it was great." He never got specific. I think I talked about this before, but it's like, "Hey, I read your script. It was great on the Blacklist." When it wasn't, I don't remember what script was up there because it wasn't the 2 movies that are up there now, but. But he asked me. He was using. I'm gonna stop using A and B and stuff. He was using his brother's account to send me messages, and so I definitely had to Google them, and that's why I realized that he's not high level, anything. And he kept messaging me, and we were talking. He's like, "Would you ever write an urban horror movie?" Because I guess the movie I had up had people of color in it. He read an urban horror movie, and I said, "Sure." Just a young dumb Chad. And he was like, "Okay, you're gonna do it on spec, which means you don't get paid. You just write the script, and if they like it, then they'll buy it, and if not, then you just spent however long writing that movie." So he's like, he said, before we get to the spec though, just write me a couple of pages. And so I did that, and I gave him like 2 options. And no, okay. So the first one I gave him is something that I turned into something else that I started another movie script on. But it was I did like an urban thing. It was basically, an alien succubus. So stupid. Alien succubus takes college men and women, because she is bisexual. She sucks their souls out and eats them or whatever. And so so I wrote an outline for it, because that's how I write. And then I took one of the scenes in the outline, and then I wrote a scene based on that. And then I sent him the scene, and he was like, okay, how about more urban? And I went, the fuck do you want? What do you want? I just cursed. He's like, what the heck do you want? So then I wrote him probably the most urban thing I could think of. And you can imagine that, Dales. And he was like, okay, well, maybe not so urban. I remember this. That was it was such an about face. Oh, okay, it's a little too urban for me. And again, it was an urban horror comedy. That's what he wanted. And so both of them were comedies. And I wrote and so he's like, okay, this is good. And then it was my mom who was like, why don't you ask him a bunch of questions? And then I asked him a bunch of questions, and then so we talked on the phone, this guy and I, and he sounded like he was in a hurry, like in a rush. He's in his car, just hey man, I'm in LA, I'm driving around, just like he could have been an Uber driver. And I asked him a bunch of questions, and then he ghosted me, like every woman in my life. He ghosted me. And I just thought, it could have been a scam, but it was like, why would you lie? Because the movies were real, and I saw the trailers, and I saw the website, I saw the company's website. But he was just trying to get, what I think was he was trying to get me to write a free script for him, or pay me, as little money as possible for this little tiny script. I should have done it. I shouldn't have asked the question. I should have been like, yeah, why not? I'll do it. I'm not really working right now. Just writing 90 pages of straight up crap based on the movies that he had. Anyway, that's a nice little story. Hey, let's get to the first topic. 13 minutes in, or 12 based on how I sat around for a minute. This is written by Edmund Lee and Lauren Hirsch over at New York Times. BuzzFeed is going public. What now for VICE and VOX? So we talked about how BuzzFeed was going public. Also, who went public this week, whose IPO dropped, Robinhood. And it launched at $38. Robinhood's the stock trading app that anybody can use on their cellular phones. And they were hoping for $42, high of $42. They had to go with their low of $38. And now I think they're trading at like $34 or something. So it's not too. You always want to sit on IPOs and just wait. Not many of them do well when they first start. I read that Facebook started at like 30, and it launched at 38, dropped to 32 in its first couple of months, and then just skyrocketed. Now it's at over $300 per share. Same, but like even for Spotify launched at what, 40, and now it's at like 400 or something. God, I wish I had jumped on that Spotify one, because I like them. So BuzzFeed, we talked about this before, going public, and this is going to push a lot of its competition to really think about what they're doing in terms of getting more of the market share. So the reason, VICE and VOX were mentioned is because they are in the same segment as BuzzFeed, more or less. VICE, as you know, tried to go public a number of times, and a couple years ago, when Disney was buying Fox, Disney put in a lot of VICE has a lot of backers, including Disney, and Disney they were valued at close to a billion, and now they're valued probably around 300 million. Or something like that. I don't know. That's something I did for News Time a long time ago, and I can't remember the numbers. But valuations for each one of these, Vox, Vice, and Group 9, and other companies like it based on digital journalism, have gone up because people really enjoy that stuff. And it all came down to this, and this is from the article. Give readers web-native content free of charge and watch the money roll in from advertisers eager to connect with a younger audience. Look at the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journals, all those periodicals. They've done well because they've turned into the skid of digital journalism. And now all three of those are charging the readers to read them. Vox has gotten into the charging game. It started this past pandemic, during the pandemic. The next pandemic, oh God, Vox started charging. Well, not charging, asking for donations. Atlantic is now full charge. Additionally, with that, a number of leading web journalists have decamped for these century-old institutions while investors are demanding returns on the money they plowed into the digital companies when they were all the rage. Ezra Klein left. He created Vox, or co-created Vox Media, and left, and now he's at the New York Times because that is sure money, whereas at Vox, you don't. Yeah, you have the younger readers, but now advertisers are looking for more stable money. And when you're older, you typically have more stable money. You're going to be, if you're an older person and you're subscribed to the Wall Street Journal, you're going to be paying that $38 per month. Whereas a younger person, someone my age, who says they enjoy reading Vox, who says they enjoy reading The Atlantic, is not necessarily want to donate $5 every month or pay The Atlantic however much money that they're asking for so you can read their stuff, read more than 3 articles. So now Vox and Vice had to start growing in order to, and BuzzFeed as well, in order to compete with one another, in order to compete against or with the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Washington Post. Vox bought New York Media, which is the parent of New York Magazine and all the other crap that comes with that. Vice bought Refinery 29. Group 9 added Pop Sugar to its stable that included The Dodo and Thrillist. Interesting. And then BuzzFeed bought HuffPost from Verizon, but Verizon also now owns a little bit of BuzzFeed. And then they also bought Complex. Vice Media is circling a plan to go public again. According to 3 people with knowledge of Vice Media, Vox is considering several offers that would take it public through a SPAC. 2 people familiar with the business said. And Axios, a news site based in Washington that started in 2017, has had talks with the German publishing giant Axel Springer about a possible merger, according to 3 people with knowledge in negotiations. So, there are 2 extremes that they point out here as to why these companies want to do this. On one end, there's the Post, the Journal, the Times, that have their millions of subscribers, between 3 and 6. Large news operations that rely on their prestige, breadth, and experience to attract subscribers. And then there are these younger ones, Axios and Vice, that have hyper-focused reporting. Vice with all just drug reporting on subjects of special interest to smaller but intensely loyal audiences. It's kind of like the Patreon thing. Are you going to, just because you can follow, Doughboys on Patreon, does that mean that you're going to want to, you get the free show, but then if you want that extra show, if you want to talk on the Discord, are you going to pay that $5 or $10 per month? All the digital publishers currently pursued by Wall Street, Vox Media could reverse the trend of reducing a company's value to go public. Because typically, when they go public, They say, "Oh, we're worth 2 billion," and then right before they go public, okay, well maybe we're not worth that much. Fox Media anticipates around $400 million in revenue this year, growing at a rate of more than 25%. This year, Fox Media is likely to hit a financial metric known as a cash flow positive. That means the company's operations have more cash coming in than going out, which makes it easier to expand or even pay dividends to its investors. It also makes going public less urgent, because you go public, you get money, or you're valued at some odd thing. People start investing, and then boom, you have money. And now you're worth more. You're worth more. It's all about worth for these things. So is a SPAC the right move for BuzzFeed? We'll see when it launches that IPO, and we'll see how VICE and VOX both tackle this. They're probably both going to launch with a SPAC, but VICE has pretty big investors. VOX looks to be going in the right direction in terms of money made. So we'll see how this turns out for them in the end. But the real kicker here is going to be BuzzFeed when it comes to what happens, or how the outlook is for the others. Moving on, this next one comes from Forbes, written by John Chmielewski. Any potential ViacomCBS COMCAST deal on hold amid uncertain regulatory environment, says Insider. Last week I talked about how ViacomCBS and COMCAST, or NBCUniversal in this case, we're thinking about teaming up for international prospects in terms of streaming, because both Paramount Plus and Peacock need to expand into the international market, or further into the international market, if they plan on making any money or doing any better than they are. HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu now. Hulu used to not be international, or as far-reaching as it is. Disney Plus, along with Disney Plus, and then Disney Plus Hotstar in India, and even Prime Video, are all international, and that's how you continue to get subscribers and do well. And when you're these other companies, and now you're expecting your money to sorry, excuse me, I'm typing in something for Paramount Plus, and now when you expect your money to be coming in with with streaming, then this is interesting. But with Biden's new regulatory look, because Amazon did buy MGM and Disney did buy Fox, and Apple's creating its own app ecosystem with the App Store, and it's not letting other app stores on the iPhone. They're creating a monopoly. They're closing off your ecosystem, and now it's Biden is rightfully taking a look at how these businesses are basically closing off competition. Oh, and then also AT&T spins off Warner Media with Discovery, and Discovery now basically owns Warner Media at this point. So it's on pause. The deal's on pause. But this article that Dawn wrote, I will refuse to go back to the last name. This article is saying that, or is insinuating that ViacomCBS and Comcast were looking to combine into one company, which I took that from last week's article that they were just looking to do international streaming together. And I'm going to see if she but she mentions the international markets, but the thing is what she's writing about, and this is why it's a little bit confusing, is that she's writing that it's as if they were going to come together with a quote unquote business combination, and then she links to that. She links to another article she wrote on July 20th, about 10 days ago, as if that was going to be the merger. I don't think that was going to be the merger. in my heart of hearts, I think the only thing was they were going to, if anything, at the highest degree, they were going to combine Peacock and Paramount Plus. At the, and in wildest, and I'm not going to say dreams, but in my wildest imagination, that's worse than dreams. That was what my idea was, as if they were going to go, hey, Peacock, Paramount Plus, if you live in India or England or Russia or China, let me name one more, Japan. If you live in any of those places or anything surrounding it, then you're going to get Paramount. You're just going to get this combined app. You're going to get Disney Plus, Hotstar. That's what's going to be yours. That's like the top tier. That's what I can think of. And then, but in reality, realistically, I would have thought, or it would have been like a Hulu style thing. Hulu, you can get HBO Max and Stars, like channels, like Amazon channels. You can get all that stuff. You can get all that stuff and subscribe to that in one app, as opposed to having to get all those other apps, something like that. And she even writes that from a Hulu style streaming joint venture. Yeah, there you go. That's what the sources were saying. But at the bottom tier of that, I would think that it was going to be, Paramount Plus, Peacock. They launch in these markets, but instead of paying $5 for Peacock with ads and $5 for Paramount Plus with ads, you pay $8. You get both. You get access to both. It's just a bundle. That's what I thought. That was my initial thing. So apparently, Don says there was a conversation between Comcast CEO Brian Roberts and ViacomCBS chairwoman Sherry Redstone and CEO Bob Bakish, which led to a broader discussion of whether there were other strategic possibilities, from a Hulu-styled streaming joint venture to a more comprehensive tie-up. That's what the sources say to Forbes. Peacock, she talks about how it's struggling, how Peacock and Paramount Plus are struggling compared to Netflix, Amazon, even Amazon, Jesus, Apple and Disney. Even Amazon, wow. Peacock, which is currently showing the Olympic Games, is available only in the U.S., while Paramount Plus is offered in the U.S. and Latin America, and plans to launch in 25 markets around the world by the end of the year. I think Peacock announced their quarterly earnings, Peacock subscribers, and this is recent. Peacock hits 54 million signups amid Tokyo Olympics, and that includes people that's just signing up. Oh, okay. Here's something that's going to be international strategy. NBCUniversal's Peacock is going to be offered to 20 million Sky subscribers in Europe at no extra cost as part of the international streaming strategy for Hollywood. So they get the free Peacock. That's amazing. Around 20 million users of the 54 million signups are monthly active accounts. I don't know if he means if they're paying or not. That's from Bob Bakish. This article is from the Hollywood Reporter, written by Etten Vlessing and George Salazar. These are great names. This is better than friggin' John Smith and Tim Jimson. Tim Jimson. Oh, that Tim Jimson. Oh, what an SOB. The studio will also, this is from the Hollywood Reporter article, make programming changes to Peacock to boost its consumer offering. Starting in 2022, a, quote, reimagined dynamic pay one window will shift film titles from Universal Empire to Peacock, exclusive for the first and last. Yeah, okay, that's the deals we already talked about. Okay, so the subs are 54 million right now. And then ViacomCBS's own Paramount Plus, this also comes from Hollywood Reporter, written by George Salazar, have 36 million. And this is one that's not free. So you have to pay the $5 or $10 for ad-supported or non-ad supported. So that's a good amount. And they're also doing, and Showtime is also apparently doing pretty well too. Yeah. So I wonder with the Paramount Plus and Showtime, they're combining those together, are 36 million. That's I don't think you should combine them. You should have separate numbers. So I'm thinking Paramount Plus has about 28 million, no, I'm giving Showtime the benefit of the doubt, but I'm guessing 28 million and 8 million, something along those lines. Hey, I'm pretty good at math when it comes to not really things that matter. It's the streaming push is very important, and I mean, if anything, Comcast is or NBCUniversal is already bigger than, not bigger than Disney, but they're bigger than Netflix, and I'm gonna have to say it, probably don't really need the money if you have the tentpole films like Trolls and like Fast and Furious, and it just doesn't. I mean, yes, it's good to have a foothold in the streaming world, but that's not going to be your main thing. Right now, it kind of has to be, and you have to find out something to do with these movies, and you've already changed up how you're distributing them and how long they get to stay in theaters, which is now 45 days, which is having the traditional 90-day window. So for that, it just seems like Comcast is running around not really knowing what to do, and it seems like they're bleeding money, but they're not. I truly doubt they are, and it doesn't make sense to make giant moves. So a bundle would be better than making a Hulu-like ecosystem alongside your competition. Distribution is hard. Expanding is hard. Let's keep marching on. This next one comes from Variety, written by Michael Schneider. TV lags far behind film in disability representation, rather. Nielsen, respectability, and study reveals. This is an exclusive. Don't know why I said that part. Television still falls far behind behind film in depicting characters with disabilities, according to a new study that was released on Wednesday. As an encouraging sign, the report found that content featuring depictions of disability rose more than 175% in the past decade. Wow. But that the majority of these roles were played by performers without disabilities, which is very true. Is very true. That's a very true thing. I think now, you can't really. I started this crusade. I started this thing this year where I just don't watch shows that don't have if they don't have people of color in the main cast. I just don't watch shows and movies. If it's just not, that's why F9 came out. Loved it because it's all people of color versus all white people. It's so funny. I just realized that recently, where it's all the main people on the Fast team, excluding Paul Walker, are all brown people. Jordana Brewster's Brazilian, and Vince is a person of color, and he won't say which one, but I think I've already talked about this before. How I think he's either Brazilian or Cuban, half Brazilian, half Cuban, and everybody else is black or Latino. And then in F9, it's those black and Latino people, and Asian guy versus John Cena white, Charlize Theron white, and German guy from Army of the Dead or Day of the, what was that movie called? What was the Army of the Dead? I think so. Good movie. Don't know why the spinoff is about his character though. Doesn't make sense. And it might not be the same guy. But he's German and he's white, and so he's probably the same guy. Time to the 31st anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Nielsen and Respectability have partnered on a 3-part series of reports, quote, Visibility of Disability. The initial study evaluated 3,000 titles and found that around 65% of depictions of disability came via films. Just 16% came from regular series, with the balance seen in TV, movies, limited series, or specials. it's interesting. So anyway, like I was saying earlier, you can't, the stuff that came on in 2002, like you can't get mad at Friends for them for not having any people of color. It was, I mean, I understand it's a, that you can be mad about any small thing now, but you can't. Yeah, I mean, you can't be mad at that. Like, just like Everybody Loves Raymond, you can't get mad at that for not having really any people of color. I don't think. Why pick on Friends? There's other shows that just don't have it, because it was just different time. Like when UPN was on, that's where all the black shows were. Sandra Bullock, she produced the George Lopez show because there were no Latino people on television. I've been watching a lot of George Lopez show. I haven't seen that show since probably high school, and it's still a very funny sitcom. And it lasted for a good amount of years. Anyway, it's so you can't get mad at things that are made in 2000, especially like if they use slurs, if they have all this stuff. It's the time after we started becoming more eyes open instead of eyes wide shut. We're at orgies all over the place. It's the time after you become this more open-minded society where you can go, okay, this needs to have, people of color. This needs to have people with disabilities. This needs to have more LGBTQ representation, and so that's I'm just not watching things that don't have those things. And it's you know what? It's very easy. I don't have to watch the new He-Man cartoon because it's like 95% white guys. Come on, man. Like, come on. Ugh, Jesus. And I want to watch it, but I'm just not going to. So all that is to say is anything that's new coming out and there's someone in a wheelchair. I watched a horror movie. With a girl in a wheelchair. And I can't remember what the title was, but it was on Hulu. I think it's called... No, Run. It's called Run. Great horror movie. Sarah Paulson and the young woman in the wheelchair was Kiera Allen. And there's points where she's knocked out of that chair and she does some great physical acting because she's forced to at that point. Like we're dragging herself across the floor or a roof, or swinging herself across a roof. Jesus, it's just so good. And I imagine seeing an actress that has full use of her legs trying to do that stuff, and it would just seem fake. But Kiera was so good and so alive in that role, even though her mother was trying to kill her. And then in the end, it's a surprise. Something happens in the end where you're like, whoa. A survey attached to the study also found that audiences with disabilities more often found themselves with those portrayals. Found problems, why did I say themselves with those portrayals? Specifically, the survey found that people with a disability are 8% more likely than people without a disability to say TV portrayals inaccurate, 7%. You can see the numbers on here, and they don't really get into them. But it's if you're gonna write a story around a person with a disability, then do that. There was a movie trailer I just watched on Hulu that, IMDb. I'm gonna go to IMDb. There's a movie trailer I just watched on Hulu where about halfway through I went, wait, I saw 3 actors and I went, wait, that person has Down syndrome. That person has Down syndrome. That person has Down syndrome. And then I went, oh wait, she's in a wheelchair. Is this really her? And then I realized, oh my gosh, like every single person in this movie has a disability. Okay, the movie is called Best Summer Ever. And it is it looks so fun. It's a musical, and God, let's get rid of Rotten Tomatoes. Let's get rid of all this stuff. I don't want to see But Shannon DeVito is in it, and she is an actress that uses a motorized wheelchair, and she leads the pack with, well, there's a young black man who's not on the Google cast list for some reason. Don't know why he is not. That is interesting to see. His name is AJ Murr. No, that's not him, I don't think. That's interesting to see. I wonder why he's not up here. Makes me question a lot of things. His name is Ricky Alexander, and I don't know. And then there's then everybody else. I don't want to pass judgment or say anything like you say, like, oh, they're all, people with mental or physical disabilities. But a majority of the cast was or appeared, to be, and it looks great. It looks fun. And it looks like all this. And God, this woman can sing. This Shannon girl. Or Sharon, I forgot her name. I also exited out of IMDb, and Ricky can sing as well. So it looks like High School Musical, but not with a bunch of rich white kids and Corbin Blue. I've never seen High School Musical, as you can tell. So this representation is not just a black and white thing. It needs or a male female thing. It needs to be expand. I think about this all the time. It just needs. We need to not fight one fight, not one fight, not even one fight at a time. There needs to be multiple times. This is a 42-minute episode where things need to be pushed forward, where everything needs to be pushed forward, and not just one agenda at once. More people like there was an episode of Claws. Where the beautiful Jen Lyon and the man who plays his husband, her husband, the gorgeous Jen Lyon, where the man who plays her husband, Bryce, were being, I guess, talking to like their accountant or something at their home, their luscious home in Florida. And Claws is a show about a bunch of women who do nails who get stuck working for the Dixie Mafia. Okay, so that's what that is, and. Their accountant or whoever that person was in their house was in a wheelchair, and they had fun with it without hitting anyone's expense, without attacking the person. The person did their scene, and then they instead of backing out and walking away, obviously they rolled back and then turned their chair and then rolled away. That just sounds so mean. Just rolled away, and Jen Lyon and the beautiful Jen Lyon and the man who played her husband. Followed that person with a comedic beat of they watched the person roll out, and then they watched them roll away and they leaned out like this. And I thought that was such a funny thing to do, because that doesn't hurt anyone. They just watch the person go, but they just happen to be in a wheelchair, so they happen to do that nice smooth move. That's pretty good. All right, let's finish off. This is going to be a big one. This comes from the Wall Street Journal, broken by the Wall Street Journal, written by R.T. Watson. Disney's Black Widow tops box office, lifting prospect of movie-going What? This is the wrong thing. Did I, Okay, WSJ. Okay, so what happened is, I typed in Black Widow. Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney because of the streaming release of Black Widow. And believe it, I have been open about my dislike of Scarlett Johansson for a very long time. And believe it or not, I think she's correct in suing them. So we've got last week, or 2 weeks ago, or something like that. The movie theater council or whatever association came out and said that that Black Widow did not do well, and the reason was it didn't make $1 billion, and the reason was because people can spend $30 and watch it at home and have however many people in their homes watching it. I've talked about how Jason Kilar over at Warner Media said that the day and date stuff for HBO Max and the theaters, it really told the tale of if that movie was going to do well or not. So Wonder Woman 1984 did well, because it did well in theaters because it did well on HBO Max. They basically said that they're 1-1. In the Heights did not do well on HBO Max. Ergo, it did not do well in theaters, and you can really see the box office on that. And so, and now that statement kind of reigns true for the whole of the streaming industry with this day and date stuff. I do want to double check though if that's true for Boss Baby 2. Because you could pay, because that one, unlike Trolls World Tour, Boss Baby 2 did not release on Hulu and on Peacock, and you could, for free, and like if you just subscribed and you can watch them both, you had to actually subscribe to Peacock. You had to pay the $5 in order to watch. Now, Boss Baby 2's box office looks like it is, this comes from Box Office Mojo, domestic 51 million. Worldwide, 62 million. I don't know if that is... that's definitely not what they're looking for, because the first one was 528 million, looks like. USD. Wow, Jesus. So it did gangbusters across the seas. But going back to Black Widow, it's interesting to see that she jumped on this immediately because, wow, God, HBO said, so when Warner announced that HBO Max is going to be doing the day and date thing, they immediately reached out to the stars of the movies that are affected, and from everybody from Wonder Woman 1984 all the way to Dune, and I think West Side Story might be Warner Media. I don't know. Let's see. The 2021 film. Yeah, I re-listened to that soundtrack, and it's still as good as I remembered it to be. It's a Steven Spielberg movie. That's all I can tell you. It doesn't say what studio. What if I just typed in HBO Max? HBO Max. I don't think it's going to be on HBO Max. Well, West Side Story, the original, is on Turner Classic Movies. Yeah, it looks like it's on HBO Max. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? So, what was I talking about? I completely forgot. So here's what's happening. I was talking about. Oh, okay, right. So I know something about. So when Warner Media announced that all the movies were going to come to HBO Max just only for 2021, everybody went in uproar. Everybody who likes watching movies, everybody who likes watching film, I guess, was in uproar because they were saying that's not fair. This is going to make streaming the dominant thing, which is partially true. But following that, Warner said, no, we're only doing it for this year, and then also we're going to pay extra money to the points in the back end. So basically what that is, if you're a big enough star, if you're a star of a movie, then 1984, Denzel Washington, Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman 1984, Denzel Washington and The Little Things, These Little Things, All the Little Places, all the small things. Denzel Washington in that movie, and I assume Jared Leto as well, and whoever, Ethan Hawke, was that? No, that's no Ethan Hawke. That's Training Day. Who else was in the Pretty Little Things or Pretty Little Liars? Oh God, that remake's gonna be soon. Anyway, people in Dune, Timothée Chalamet, everybody. Just if you're in those movies, you're big enough, you're gonna get you get your paycheck, and then you also get, if the movie does well enough, if it passes certain thresholds, then you're going to get a certain threshold. If it passes certain thresholds, you're also going to get more money, which is a nice thing, right? And I think I don't want to put her money out there, but Gal Gadot might have gotten like 10 extra million or something like that. 10 or 50 million. It's one of those numbers. I have to double check this. Gadot, Wonder Woman, 1984. Extra pay. That just sounds horrible. 10 million. It was 10 million. She got paid an extra 10 million because of what was happening. No, she took home 10 million for the sequel. And then she got more money in the back end. Whatever. Okay, who cares? It doesn't matter. I don't want to talk about money with these people. It's none of my business. So Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney because of the streaming thing. According to the complaint, Ms. Johansson's representatives sought to renegotiate her contract after learning of a dual release strategy for Black Widow. The decision to put the movie on Disney Plus is projected to cost Ms. Johansson more than $50 million. Wow. Jesus. Good night. Call it Jost. Really married up. Did they sign a prenup? This is based on hers. It is so hot in here. I even turned the air down. It's so hot. Black Widow grossed $80 million at the domestic box office and $78 million overseas, and generated another $60 million from $30 at-home purchases on Disney Plus. So that looks like it's roughly, do the math, Chad, 168 plus 50, so 210, 211, something along those lines. Soon after its release, the movie's theatrical performance fell in the subsequent days more sharply than most Marvel films. Now, I'm going to read this next part, but then I want to say my own thing. Some analysts and executives in Hollywood questioned whether making the movie easy to watch at home was hurting the box office results, and so did the National Association of Theater Owners. So now they say that, but I also question, because usually these movies take home $1 billion by the end of their run at the end of 3 months. But my question is this not because it's a Black Widow movie? And I'm not saying that because it's a woman. I'm not saying that because it's Scarlett Johansson, because I don't like her. But I think it is, and also it's a prequel. It's a Black Widow movie, and it's a prequel because we see the character die. We saw her end of life. Does it really make sense for us to go back and watch a story with characters we don't even know? Also, that's a movie I won't see because no people of color. I had to look it up. Because I watched a trailer and I thought, I didn't see any people of color. I know the movie's in Russia or whatever, but come on. And I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I saw that there's her love interest, I guess, is a black guy. But come on, guys, come on. Let's just one person of color doesn't count for me. So I mean, because if you release a Hawkeye movie, that's why there's a Hawkeye show, and it's going to star Haley Steinfeld instead of Jeremy Renner. It just, it's just something that's not. Loki is fantastical, and I've never seen the show, but I know that people, they love it because it's a magic thing and there's time warps today. Same thing for Falcon and Winter Soldier. There's superpowered stuff versus. Are we going to see we're going to see Disney's version of a generic spy movie in Black Widow? But that's nothing to say against the quality of the film. That's just my logic and reasoning for that. So this comes from the Hollywood Reporter. Eric Gardner wrote, Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow lawsuit is game-changing, but it may be legally weak. And in some cases, autoplay videos, guys, come on. We can't keep doing this. It's 2021. So the court filing happened, and then the Wall Street Journal article happened at the exact same time. Actors, directors, and writers have very real concerns about being fairly compensated in an industry whose business model is shifting in real time, plus legitimate gripes that these huge conglomerates are making movies to benefit their digital platforms. Undoubtedly, Gardner writes, and this is an opinion piece, Johansson has an arbitration clause in her deal with Marvel. For all of Thursday's headlines, that Johansson is alleging that her contract to star in Black Widow was breached when Disney decided to put the superhero movie on Disney Plus the same day. She's not formally asserting breach of contract as a cause of action in her lawsuit. So that's what she should do. This was Gardner is saying that she should say not only, she's basically saying that it's costing her money, but it's not saying that it's a breach of contract. And I think legally, I'm not a lawyer, but that's what she needs to do. I'm not a lawyer, but To do so would almost certainly mean a straight ticket to arbitration. Instead, Johansson is making the sideways legal claim that Disney, as parent company, caused Marvel, its subsidiary, to breach contractual obligations. So basically, it shows the actress indeed senses advantage to putting and keeping this case in open court. But unfortunately for her, Gardner writes, it also highlights how there's not much guarantee it will stick. Disney's first move in the case is very likely to be a motion to compel arbitration on argument. This guy's really smart. The gamesmanship can't evade an agreement to privately litigate this type of dispute. Interesting. Oh, and then he talks about how how the lawyer representing Johansson basically won a case similar to this with the show Bones, the Emily Deschanel show Bones, that Stewie Griffin was on at one point, and I watched the 3 seconds that he was on. He used a similar tactic to avoid arbitration in that dispute over Hulu streaming, and it failed. Luckily, he ran into an arbitrator who saw, quote, reprehensible fraud anyway. I'll let you continue reading Gardner's stuff, but it's, I think, there's a reason why maybe it was easier for them to go through this backwards way of saying, hey, Disney caused Marvel to break the contract instead of saying Disney broke the contract. Maybe she doesn't want to burn bridges. Maybe she, with Disney, which obviously she did. And Disney came out and said, hey, Scarlett, they basically what they did was they blamed the pandemic. They said how they blamed her for, and they blamed it on the pandemic. They said, we paid you $20 million. How dare you? And then, they said, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Millions of people have lost their lives. We're not worried about this. Which I think this is that's being caught cheating and then saying you went out with your friends last Tuesday and I was alone last Tuesday, but every other night we were together. And I was just I was so turned on by making pizza that I called the pizza girl to come over. I don't know. This comes from Variety, written by Brent Lang, Black Widow lawsuit. CAA slams Disney for releasing Scarlett Johansson's salary, which is another move that I agree with. I never thought I would agree with Scarlett Johansson or any of her people in any fashion. After her saying that she could play trans and she could play Asian and not taking it back. That's crazy. The legal and public relations battle between Scarlett Johansson and the Walt Disney Company escalated on Friday morning as the actress's talent agent rose to her defense and slammed the media conglomerate for leaking her salary in, quote, an attempt to weaponize her success as an artist and businesswoman. I don't know if I agree with that, but They shamelessly and falsely accused Miss Johansson of being insensitive to the global COVID pandemic in an attempt to make her appear to be someone and I know she isn't. Yeah, I mean, in all cases, she's being somebody who is trying to get her worth. She's trying to get all of the money that she has. That she's supposed to get. Pandemic or not, if this wasn't a pandemic, she would have been paid that extra. She would have earned that extra, $30 million or so when it comes, or however, $30 million. This movie did so well. Yeah, she would have earned, however many tens of millions that she'd have earned extra when it came to this. All right, so here's the article Disney said. This comes from Variety, written by Brent Lang. Disney fires back at Scarlett Johansson and calls Black Widow lawsuit sad and distressing. Oh God, that is gaslighting. Jesus. Oh my God. Okay, so This is what Disney said. There is no merit to this filing. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. That has nothing to do with it. I understand that they're saying that the pandemic affected their ability to release this movie in theaters, but let's be real, it did not. Like, I mean, you still released it on Disney Plus for $30. People, like, if you watch it once, people watch it once, whatever, and then what if someone says, I'm going to watch this again? You know, there are four of us watch it together and I'll pay for it this time. They'll pay for it next time. You know, it's just, ugh, good Lord. That is such a, speaking of Callous, I mean, that is just DJ Callous. That is such, that is such a horrible way. A horrible way to try to do that. And now it makes me wonder, I wonder how Cruella did at the box office. And now Jungle Cruise released today, and they've been hyping that up for a year straight. So Cruella did $225.5 million at the U.S. box office. Opened to $7 million, and it looks like it did pretty well, consistently. And that's also a Disney Plus release. Again, I think in some cases, you know, it's earned... The total gross is right now 84 for US, and then it's 225 for world. But I mean, in some cases, 221 worldwide. In some cases, I just think that Black Widow people might be, maybe people are tired of Marvel stuff. Like they got tired of Star Wars. Jesus. But I mean, in any case, as I said, Black Widow did 159 and worldwide, that's domestically, and worldwide it did 319. So I wonder if they you know, quote unquote breach contract with what's her name, Emma Stone. Once you get married, my crush leaves. So it's a very interesting case. I think that again, Scarlett's right. Scarlett's right. This is something that needs to be looked at, especially when Warner took care of its stars. If you're gonna, that's why Universal, they opted to go with this plan. You know, it's either release it on your streaming platform and people are going to pay for it, or release it in theaters and just wait, or release it for free or sell it to another streaming platform, a competitor, and then release it for free and then not make any money. You know, just, you know, make about a tenth of what you were, you know, supposedly going to make. So that's, you know, we got F9 in theaters. You can't stream it yet. It'll probably be able to stream on Paramount Plus by winter time of this year. You know, Trolls World Tour, they got day and date, mostly because they had to. But Boss Baby, you get day and date only because they're testing out the waters, and Boss Baby you can kind of lose money on because that's probably not going to come back. I mean, obviously, because he turned out to be an adult in the end of he grew up, and in the beginning of Boss Baby 2 rather, because in the end of the show, spoiler alert, he decided to be a baby. Yeah, I watched the show. I love the show. It's great. And so, I mean, so Universal doesn't have the flexibility, nor did they have the subscriber numbers for Paramount Plus in order to get with that. Excuse me, NBC Universal for Peacock does not have the subscribers in order to do that. In order to release Boss Baby on there for free or release F9 on there for free. And the same thing goes for ViacomCBS. They don't have that kind of room, but Disney does. And Disney has that money. Speaking of valuations at the top of the show, that's it. Listen, this show's been going on for an hour and 5 minutes, and I only want to do 30, so 40 most. But this is something that's going to have to play out for at least the next year or so, or in the coming years, because of which is the sequel to Growing Pains. What did I say? The coming years. I'm trying to make a dirty joke about Wonder Years. That's it. I wonder what it's like to be my neighbor. I mean, I'm quiet. I don't. Besides when I record this show or news time. But we'll see how this all plays out. over the next 5 to 10 years when streaming starts taking over, and then everything becomes a bundle, and then we all go back to cable, to a cable-like system again. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to comedians, your favorite people. I sent out an email to somebody who has an HBO show that's not a comedian, that is airing tonight, is Bob Costas. I sent out an email to Bob Costas' people, and they did not respond. So look forward to not reading that interview, or hearing that interview, or watching that interview. You can, if you want to see a video version of the show, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see me in my decent lighting setup now. Horrible camera, though. Also on youtube.com/cpluscomedy is our premiere show, News Time, where we talk about the latest news of the week. It's like The Daily Show, except way less funny. Take one niche story and look at it very hard. This week's episode is about Comic-Con. It turned 50. And I forgot to mention that in the episode. I'm just now realizing that's the reason why we did it. It turned 50 last year, but this is the first year back. They were supposed to be back in person, so I just decided to do it anyway. Whatever, who cares? Okay. Instagram, Twitter, @CPlusComedy, @ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook, rate, review, subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcast. Tell friends about it, please. Thank you. Goodbye.